We're playing 2-5 at the Lodge.
Ah, 2-5 at
Um,
the Lodge. Well, I think that's the game that J Dogs was playing in a few Thursdays ago.
cool. And yeah, we're playing super deep. There's at least 25K on the table. It's currently the biggest Hold'em game in the room running. There's two
Right.
1-3 match the stack
Yep.
games going, a ton of 1-2.
Yep.
Um,
That's a good setup for this room is that the 1-3 match, I would say you'll especially at night you'll see maybe what 1K to 1500 average stacks, if not more. But then this is the biggest game really that goes in Austin on a regular basis, I would say.
yeah, and it plays more like 5-10 or even 10-20.
Yeah, I would even say like 10-20, you know.
In this hand, we actually are 2-5, 10-20.
2-5 10. So it's a 10 and a 20.
Yep.
And how deep are you guys?
Villain in the hand is the effective stack with 35, 55. I cover him by 2 or 300.
35 55 effective. Okay.
Cool. So pre-flop action, as I said, it's double straddles on.
Mm-hmm.
It folds to me in the hijack,
Okay.
and I make it 60 with queen 10 of diamonds.
Queen of diamonds, 10 of diamonds. Okay.
It folds to the button, who's an early 20s grinder. He's been three betting at a pretty high frequency.
Mm-hmm.
He makes it 200.
Okay. And it gets folded back around to you?
Folds back to me, and I defend.
Yeah. I mean, Queen 10 of diamonds is probably the worst suited Broadway. At King 10 and Queen 10 suited. But I mean, the three bet is just over 3x. It's interesting because I always point this out in a lot of my training material that I think sometimes people get a little bit lost or they don't know how to adjust to a game that has multiple straddles. And what I mean by that is that you're saying that you're in the hijack. That's almost the effective under the gun, right? Were you first to act or second to act or something? With
Uh,
four,
third to act.
third to act. Okay. So, I mean, I've played in games at the Palms, although the Palms is actually sort of shut down, where every single person had straddled. Like I'm talking about, like it was a five quadruple straddle, quintuple straddle. So you can find yourself like in the cutoff and the button, and you're first to act. Now, obviously, you're inevitably going to have position over the rest of the field, but the whole idea of opening tight ranges from up front in a two blind game, like under the gun, I mean, obviously, you're at a positional disadvantage, but you have eight unseen hands. So if you play that out and you put five straddles on there, and now you're first to act in the cutoff, it's not really the true cutoff because there's still a bunch of unknown hands that haven't acted. So there's a little adjustment there. But obviously, I would call with your hand. So you're going to go heads up here?
Yep, we're heads up to the flop.
So like 430 or something like that?
I have 437.
Okay.
The flop is 10 of clubs,
Mm-hmm.
7 of diamonds,
Mm-hmm.
5 of diamonds.
Pretty good flop for you.
Yep.
Top pair and a flush draw? Okay.
So I think about it for a second and I check to the pre-flop raiser.
Obviously, I mean, I think that's pretty standard.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
And he makes it 225.
Okay.
Comes back to me, and this is my first question in the hand. Should I consider a check raise here, or is the only move pretty much to just call?
I mean, obviously, you can have some check raises here. I tend to do a lot of calling in this spot because you got the board entirely covered, and I would probably keep some of my combo draw check raises with hands that have a little bit less showdown value, like if you had an 8-9 of diamonds or 6-8 of diamonds or something like that, as opposed to Queen 10 of diamonds. Because if he has like Ace King, right, he just doesn't have that many outs against you, right? When you get the entire board covered here with diamonds.
Yep.
You can also sometimes do that play with like a middle pair and a flush draw, you know, something like 7-6 of diamonds, and you're like, well, the board's going to be dynamic, and we're going to, you know, face a lot of sort of barrels. But I think here you've got the board covered pretty well.
Yeah, makes sense. So I did just call.
Okay, so pot's like 887 now.
887 to the turn,
Okay,
which is the 7 of clubs.
okay,
Again, I think about it for a second or two, but I check again to the pre-flop raiser,
mm-hmm.
who makes it 450.
So button bets 450 here. And again, you know, as played, like if I'm your button and now all of a sudden you put in a raise, you would be repping a very sort of, I think, a fairly thin range here of boats of like tens and fives and maybe some 7x that you defend with, whether it be ace 7 suited, 8-7 suited, maybe 6-7 suited if you do defend with those. So that's I probably wouldn't fold. I'm saying like if I'm your opponent and I bet here on the turn with like aces or kings and you check raise, I would really have a hard time folding. And from your perspective, if he is barreling, it's not a terrible barrel card for him. This is not like a single raise pot out of the big blind where this is gonna really, really favor you. I mean, you will have more 7x than he will, but it's not like just a crazy amount. So, the betting frequency with bluffs and also with overpairs that aren't probably going to fold to a check raise is pretty, it's fairly high, I would say. So I would probably continue to just call here.
And that's what I did.
Okay. So now the pot is 1787. Is that right?
Yep. And the river is the Queen of Clubs.
So that is one of the bad cards for you, right? Well,
It's
actually, no.
it's
Excuse me.
absolutely
It's
terrible.
well, it makes you top two pair, right?
But
With Queen 10.
if he has aces or kings, it's a bad situation. It actually didn't change that much in my opinion, except that I block both of his
Well,
thickest
that's
value hands,
absolutely.
which is great.
Well, there's a couple things going on here. So at first I said that's a bad card for you. And what I meant by that on the top before I realized that you river top pair is that any of these over cards that are off suit would be like bad cards for you. And what that means is if your opponent is thinking correctly and thinks that, you're holding on with a 10 or pocket nines, you don't believe him, it's a good card for him to bluff. And I think that you rightly point out that a lot of thick value hands here you block, like pocket queens and pocket tens. The other thing too here is that if this guy is any type of player, and Jonathan, if you put yourself in your opponent's perspective, let's put yourself in on the button here. Let's say that you fired twice with ace queen or even with king queen for that matter, right? And it got checked to you. What would you do here at the end?
I'd go for value.
So you would bet, right?
Correct.
So you've got several things going on here that just makes me want to call a lot. I mean, I don't know what the sizing is going to be from this guy, but you're blocking the boats, and it's a good disconnected offsuit card for your opponent to bluff. Now, are you going to get value towned by aces or kings sometimes? Sure. Yes, you are. But still, those other things, I think, would put me really squarely in a call. It looks like you've got, like 2,800 left, so about a pot and a half size bet left?
Correct.
Okay.
Is there any merit to leading here?
I don't think so for the reasons that I stated, that I want to give the guy the opportunity to bluff here. If he was running like a bluff with like, ace, some sort of light 3-bet hand, maybe he 3-bet you with a suited connector, he had a draw, anything that he deems, is not going to have showdown value here. I want to give him that opportunity. And, it is one of these things where if it goes check, check, and you basically beat like ace queen and he checks it back, I know it kind of sucks, but that should be effectively value bet across 3 streets. But we know that a lot of people like to take, showdowns here at the end. So that would
Yeah,
probably continue to check here.
this guy's a young grinder. He would definitely bet ace queen or king queen if he backed into it. And I certainly think he's going to fire the triple barrel on any busted draw and probably, all 15 combos of ace king that don't get there.
Well, if ace king is played this way, but just other hands that, it's not a bad run out for bluffs here. You know what I mean? It's not a bad run out here for bluffs, I think is what we want to take away from this. So,
Yep.
so
I do check.
Okay, so hero checks.
And I didn't see this coming. Villain jams for 2680. 1.67 the size of the pot.
2680.
Yep.
I just think that you have to call here. I mean, I think that your hand has those properties where, I don't know if someone's going to take a jam sizing here with Queen X to try to make it look like a bluff. I don't know what is quote unquote allowed, like in optimal play off the top of my head in this spot. Now, did you say that the river brought the backdoor club in? Is that right?
It did.
Okay, so then a Queen X is probably not going to be taken here for a bluff. That's That's obviously what I would be concerned about, is that if you backdoor, a club flush. But I mean, if you wanted to say pick a hand that I think is a call here that's not boats,
Yeah.
besides, you could even go down the line and maybe even think that this might even be better than 7x, because I mean, it'd probably have to be deeper. If your opponent takes a sizing where he's just repping all boats here, the fact that you block it,
Yeah.
would, but it probably now with this sizing and the backdoor flush coming in, I don't think he's allowed to go like balls to the wall here with like ace queen with the ace of clubs. Now, if it wasn't a backdoor flush, I think he certainly would, but I think I would call here for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was ready to snap off anything less than like 1K. This made me kind of tank. And I kind of went through, okay, I'm getting 1.6, 1.7 to 1. So
Mm-hmm.
if there's, 17 value hands, I need at least to find at least 10 bluffs to make it a profitable call. The
That's a
overbet,
that's a that's a nice way to do it. I mean, 1.7, 1.8 to 1 would, suggest, well, he's risking about a pot and a half, right? So, at a pot the MDF is 50, so he needs to be right 60% of the time, which means you need to defend with 40, right? So really roundly, which, I think that 17 to 10 is a ratio, right? There's a number of
yeah.
different ways to do odds and equities and things like that.
And so I thought the overbet jam is polarizing. It's super thick value or a bluff. So I ruled out all the hands in the middle we just talked about, any backed into queens or aces and kings.
Mm-hmm.
The thick value is at most six combos of boats and quads. I don't really think we should give him sevens or fives here, though.
Yeah.
And 11 combos of backdoor flush draw. I gave him every suited ace, king, jack, and 8-9. But what's really interesting on this one is the symmetry with my hand and the board, because every backdoor flush draw that gets there is also a busted front door flush draw, except for ace five. So I actually think there's more bluffs here than value. And because of that, I did make the call.
Wait a minute. Repeat that again.
Okay, so if I have to give him it, if ace two, ace three, ace four, ace jack, ace king, ace nine of clubs all get there,
Uh-huh.
he has all of those same combos in a busted diamond draw,
Well, sure.
unless we don't think he takes it that way.
But I mean, what difference does it make if you have diamonds though or not? I mean, the fact that you have diamonds actually is probably slightly worse for you, because it would lend itself, if he's structuring correctly, to not have as many front door flush draws and have more backdoor flush draws, right? Because you have two diamonds in your hand.
Yeah, but the two diamonds I have in my hand are on the board as clubs, right? All I'm saying is that I think I already beat that 1-to-1 or 1.5 to 1 ratio we talked about, because I think there are just as many bluffs as value hands in his range right now.
Well, I mean, if you think that there's as many bluffs as you think that there are value hands, then obviously it's a clear cut, call. I just think that, if you're trying to structure correctly and you're trying to call down with some hands here. By the way, he's not he's not allowed to just go insane, because if you're structuring correctly, you have some backdoor flushes here too.
Fair.
Yep. So you
Um,
called?
yeah, and it sounds like you're aligned with that, right? Like you said,
I would
right when I
call.
said he jammed. Yeah.
Yeah, I would call.
Um, I call and he hit the backdoor flush draw with ace five.
Ace five of clubs.
Yep.
So he flopped bottom pair, turned a club draw, and
Yep.
made the backdoor. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're just forced to, sometimes you get sort of coolered or you lose the hand, and, there isn't anything that you did wrong, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right after the hand, I was upset with myself for calling. I was like, oh, easy fold here. But then I went back through the same logic I used to make the call, and I was like, wait, I think this is actually a call, and that's why I emailed it in.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I think it's also too, if he's structuring correctly. I don't know how many offsuit ace X he has here. If again, it's all about like how he's structuring, right? If he's wide, if he's three betting super light with, because some of these ace X off combos with the ace of clubs might take this line as well. If he did c bet like ace jack, ace king, something like that, where he continued with a backdoor turn barrel, that would be more consistent with sort of somewhat of a wider configuration, having more ace X. He shouldn't really have that many more. He shouldn't really have that many ace X off combos here to three bet you, but there are straddles in front. So again, another adjustment here is that even though you are supposed to be able to do a fair amount of calling and no limit on the button, when you're playing a multiple straddle game, you actually want to ramp up your three betting because there's that dead money out there and people are going to call, especially in Texas, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for the call. Appreciate it. If you like what you've seen here, please hit the subscribe button. And for more training videos like this, head over to crushlivepoker.com and you can use the coupon code YTA500 to get the first 30 days for free.